Hercules. There has been no shortage of adaptations to the story of the hero from Greek mythology, ranging from historical art pieces, films, and even video games. Initially known as Hercules, the son of Zeus and Alcmene, more recent works have commonly referred to him as Hercules, the son of Jupiter and Alcmene. By the 1990s, an opportunity to provide the public with a different approach to the hero presented itself to the folks at Universal. The process of bringing the idea to life would result in a series of films that would launch the character into mainstream popularity and quickly lead to some more legendary journeys and spin-offs along the way. My name is Aaron, and today we shall examine the beginnings of Universal's live-action adaptation of The Son of Zeus and revisit the first of 5 memorable television films from 1994. This is a tale of Hercules and the Amazon women. In 1992, then Executive Vice President of Universal TV, Ned Nally, was invited by Tribune Studios to discuss the prospects of new content for television. At the time, Tribune possessed 1/5 of the syndicated television airwaves, a market that was slowly losing material to air thanks to the rise of cable TV in the 1980s. Films were now frequently being shown on the growing medium instead of local TV stations, creating a void that needed to be filled. When representatives from Tribune asked Nally what Universal was lacking at that point, his response was sports and action movies. It was settled to create a new wave of action flicks in a wheel known as the Action Pack, a movie block consisting of spin-offs from the Smokey and the Bandit series, spin-offs of the Robert De Niro film Midnight Run, William Shatner's Tech War, director Rob Cohen's Vanishing Son, and something in the genre of sword and sandal. With the aid of Universal's then Senior Vice President for Drama Development, Dan Philly, these films, dubbed as the Magnificent Six, were pitched to syndication in 1993, with the idea of branching them off into weekly TV episodes should they catch on well enough with viewers. For the sword and sandal genre, the two contacted David Icke, the head of TV development at Renaissance Pictures, and asked if Sam Raimi and Robert Tapert would create either Conan or Hercules for the Action Pack. The Michigan natives signed on, but an uncertainty over legal rights to the Conan franchise led to Hercules being chosen. While conducting their research on Greek mythology, they both deemed many of the tales, including the ones featuring Hercules himself, as too somber and unappealing for American audiences at the time. Any influences from previous film iterations of Hercules were also viewed as unsuitable, so it was decided to give Hercules a more modern approach in the same vein as 1993's Army of Darkness, plenty of action with a mix of humor. Togas, chariots, and frequent interference from the other Greek gods would be left out. Joining Icke and the Evil Dead producers in the brainstorming process was writer Christian Williams, whose vast knowledge of Greek mythology helped shape the direction for the latest adaptation of The Son of Zeus, a modern, all-American Hercules whose adventures would be loosely based on his 12 laborers. Williams noted, "His stepmother hates him because she associates him with Zeus's unfaithfulness. Zeus is this irresponsible wanderer who isn't much help to Hercules. Hercules is Joe Montana. He is rich, good-looking, talented, tremendously powerful, but he doesn't know whether he's mortal or not. He could lose love, status, money, his future on one play, but he is destined to be an NFL quarterback. He has a gift from God, and his gift is his destiny. It's the same with Hercules." On the presentation of the films around the character, Philly added, "It's the Rocky and Bullwinkle standard. Write the dialogue for the adults, and then the visuals are for the kids. So the kids are going to watch because it's fun and it's action, and the adults are going to get all the jokes and references that are going to sail right over the kids' heads." All they needed now was someone to cast as their new Hercules. Initially, Universal sought out a big name, Dolph Lundgren. Can you imagine an alternate universe where this man went from Ivan Drago killing Apollo Creed to Hercules battling mythological monsters? But alas, Lundgren declined the role. Unable to secure an established name for the part, the 4 producers set out to create a name of their own. After recruiting then Universal casting director Nancy Perkins, they stressed the importance of finding an athletic actor who wasn't as bulky as your typical bodybuilder. So no repeating Hercules in New York. Eventually, a 34-year-old actor named Kevin Sorbo auditioned. The Minnesota native had been coming off a moment in his career he later described as going from the top of Mount Everest to Hades. Initially chosen for the role of Clark Kent in the Warner Brothers series Lois and Clark, the studio instead went with Dean Cain within 24 hours. 3 months after that experience, he managed to impress many in his initial audition for the role of Hercules. It would take 5 more auditions before he negotiated a deal. After the final audition in front of the studio, bringing the total to 7, he was officially cast as the son of Zeus. Sorbo was then sent to Los Angeles for training with Douglas Wong, one of Bruce Lee's students, and the producers would cast the late great Anthony Quinn as Zeus. This choice helped legitimize the upcoming films in the eyes of many. Among the individuals cast for the first film to accompany Sorbo and Quinn were the British-born Shakespearean veteran Michael Hurst as Herc's best friend Aeolus, the Irish Roma Downey as Queen Hippolyta, and a young Kiwi actress as the Queen's second-in-command. You may have heard of her. She was Lucy Lawless. Tappert then advised the young Eric Grundeman to scout for suitable locations to film after the likes of North Carolina, Seattle, and Vancouver were dismissed. During this search, the idea of filming in New Zealand was brought up. Grundeman was completely on board with it, citing largely untapped locations throughout the country that would be perfect for presenting Hercules as a man constantly on the move experiencing new adventures. Additionally, it was monetarily appealing, with each New Zealand dollar equaling 53 American cents at that point. The idea became more and more intriguing as each of the producers took turns visiting the country. Tappert recalled, "Eric and I knew there would be many exterior shots, and we needed 11 to 12 hours of daylight. New Zealand was also cheaper than shooting in America. The determining factor in going to New Zealand is it just looked different. It looked really pastoral, primitive in a funny way, but inviting, so it really looked great on film." However, Universal was initially skeptical due to the large distance of 6,500 miles between Auckland and Los Angeles. Not to mention that New Zealand was almost a day ahead of the City of Angels. Fortunately for all of us, doubts soon faded after the beautiful New Zealand scenery was witnessed on celluloid. David Icke said, "It turned out to be a great decision." With this, filming for Renaissance's Hercules began in the fall of 1993, and the first of 5 television films would debut a few months after Tech War helped officially launch Universal's action pack on January 17th, 1994. Hercules and the Amazon Women, written by the trio of Julie Selbo, Andrew Detman, and Daniel Truly, was directed by Bill L. Norton and premiered on the Action Pack on April 25th, 1994. This telefilm would be inspired by the second and ninth labors of Hercules, kill the Hydra, and recover the girdle of Hippolyta, Queen of the Amazons. Ah, the classic Universal logo. Renaissance Pictures kicks things off with an intro quickly shifting in between shots of each of the 5 films, as they were all shot at some capacity by this point. An excellent look at what the intro would eventually become in the television series. Our story begins with 3 lads cautiously making their way through the woods. 2 of them are having second thoughts about carrying on, but this third one convinces them to do so. As they tread on, it isn't long before they realize they're surrounded. Suddenly, this mysterious creature performs a web swing and demolishes this one with no remorse. In a sequence reminiscent of an Evil Dead film, the second lad is tripped up and dragged to his doom. Despite the efforts from the third man, Pythus, the second casualty occurs. The remaining journeyman makes a run for it and barely manages to escape. The second intro plays with the classic Hercules theme by Joseph LaDuca blaring in the background as the stars are introduced for the first time. I'd never get tired of listening to this theme, such a great piece of work from the legendary composer. Soon after, children are having a ball in the middle of a town. When this little girl is denied from joining in on the fun, this young lad is rattled at the sight of something. He dashes over to someone else for help, and it is here we see the debut of Aeolus! As he prepares himself for battle, a towering presence is seen slowly walking his way into town. Aeolus is greeted with a giant push, and it is here we see the debut of Hercules. A small scuffle ends with a military press by Herc as Aeolus begs to be let down before his upcoming wedding is cancelled. The two best friends embrace, as it is confirmed Aeolus has a wedding date with a woman named Anya, with Hercules as the best man. Behold, the majesty that is New Zealand. A unique character in and of itself, really. The two longtime friends discuss Aeolus' future, with a wife who is unable to cook, handle animals, or sew. As Herc laughs at these revelations, Aeolus assures him he'll soon know all about this love thing as soon as he meets the right woman. Never, replies the son of Zeus. Suddenly, the sound of crying catches Herc's attention. Another little girl is in clear distress, and it is none other than Rose McIver, who would end up playing Herc's daughter in future installments and also appear in Season 5 of Xena, Warrior Princess. The little girl laments her father's death due to a monster eating him whole, and is in the middle of a prayer to the goddess symbolized by this statue. When she asks Hercules to get close to her for the whereabouts of the monster, she unleashes a vice grip on his neck and slowly shifts into a vicious hydra. Don't provoke it, commands Hercules, but Aeolus is having none of that crap, ready to attack with a sword. When the hydra strikes him back, the sword is hurled over to the son of Zeus. The beast's head is chopped off, ending the threat to our heroes' safety. Actually, the hydra grows 2 more heads. Hercules quickly slices off one of the heads, but 2 more grow back in its place. These effects may show their age, but I still get a kick out of watching this sequence. I love the 90s. Noticing a torch in the distance, Herc demands Aeolus to fetch it. The son of Zeus saves his friend from getting eaten alive by slashing the hungry head and lawn darting the sword to nail the 2 remaining heads onto this tree. The Hydra is finally burned alive, and the Mark of Hera lets Herc know who was responsible for the ambush. He destroys the peacock statue and remarks this is the result of a woman with too much power. I think she heard you. Our 2 heroes then pay a visit to Herc's mother Alcmene, played here by Jennifer Ludlum. She congratulates Aeolus as he invites them both over for dinner later that evening. Correctly assuming that Hera was responsible for the battle earlier, Alcmene is quick to express what she thinks of the Queen of the Gods, calling her a bitch. She exits the room for something to heal Herc's gash on his arm, and the King of the Gods stops by with a smile on his face. Zeus says there's nothing he can do about Hera because, in his mind, there's no changing a woman who doesn't want to be changed. Despite never being in his son's life much, the king still holds much love and admiration for Hercules, telling him how proud he is for becoming a legend in his own right. Alcmene returns, briefly reuniting with the father of her child before he heads off for an appointment. Hours later, Pithis is roaming the town on high alert. Anya and Aeolus conduct the final preparations for their dinner while he humorously withdraws any criticism of her foul cooking. Mother and half-god soon arrive, and after a spoonful of Anya's meal, Hercules is not amused. This face is gold. Suddenly, Pithis is seen through the window, through the wall. Hercules goes outside and the perturbed lad informs him of a dire situation in his homeland of Gargarencia. Ferocious beasts have wreaked havoc on the town, with their best warriors disappearing without a trace when attempting to fight back. Pithis explains it's a 2-day trip back to his town and begs Hercules to help take care of the beasts. The son of Zeus decides to go to Gargarencia alone, but Aeolus insists on accompanying his longtime friend. Despite the upcoming wedding, best friends will fight back to back one more time. To explain his sudden absence to Anya, her fiancé lies by saying Herc begged him to go with him. Funny gag. Hercules and Aeolus bid farewell to their loved ones and set off on their 2-day journey to Gargarencia. Along the way, we witness more of New Zealand's beauty. These are some great shots. A wrestling match between this man and a Pumbaa is interrupted by the sight of the 2 heroes entering Gargarencia with Pithis. It's none other than Murray Keane, who would later play Howard in the Day in the Life episode during Season 2 of Xena. The entire town rejoices at Pythos' return, including his little son Franco. And it's another cast member from Season 2 of Xena, David Taylor, aka Solon. Hercules soon realizes the lack of women in the town and inquires for more information. Pythos nervously says they were stolen by the beasts, with some of the children being abandoned in the riverbed. With no one providing a straight answer on what these beasts look like, the two heroes waste no time in heading to the forest. Along the way, Sorbo and Hurst humorously display the chemistry that would largely define the television show for years to come. This shot in particular is fascinating to look at, knowing how the series ended in early 2000. Anyways, Hercules and Iolaus arrive to the forest and find some dead bodies in the trees. Feeling that they are being watched, the two friends are proven correct as tons of soldiers in masks descend from above. Herc and Iolaus are temporarily restrained before Herc unleashes his strength and Iolaus uses his sword to break free. The soldiers retreat into the trees, but their ambush is far from over. As the two heroes tread forward, more Evil Dead goodness appears via Iolaus' trip-up jump scare, and his sword is gone. Hercules locates one of the soldiers beneath them, and bodies fly everywhere! The two heroes are then outnumbered again. Careful, Iolaus. Careful dies. Reckless kills. Round 2 of the battle begins, and one of the soldiers cuts Iolaus in the face, angering him. He chases the retreating soldier to Herc's dismay, and is greeted by more reinforcements. The action here is awesome. As the two friends hold their own against the beasts, Iolaus unmasks one of them and yells to his friend that it's a woman. She uses this distraction to her advantage and stabs the Golden Hunter. The son of Zeus begs his friend to stay strong, but it's no use. In his final moments, Iolaus asks Herc to tell Anya how much he longed to be her husband, and says goodbye. Hercules is surrounded once again, but one of the soldiers commands to save him for the queen. Hey, there she is, Xena. The ladies escort the son of Zeus back to their land, with tons of activity going on in between shots. This is the land of the Amazons, and this is the queen's second in command, Lycia. Upon entering this temple, Lycia taunts Hercules before kneeing him in the nards. Behold, the queen of the Amazons, Hippolyta. The queen holds no remorse over Iolaus' death, as she proudly exclaims she and her fellow Amazons shall never be controlled by men. The son of Zeus says they were sent by the men across the river expecting a beast. We're not beasts, Hercules. We're women. Hardly. The verbal torpedoes end with Hippolyta dismissing the Amazons, and to prove what she feels all men are, she turns Hercules into an infant at the blow of this candle. We then see flashbacks of pivotal moments in his life concerning women. An extremely proud Zeus telling him to have several women as an infant, Herc's mentor advising the class to dismiss any emotions, and a replay of the battle in the forest. As Hercules displays raw emotion over his friend's death, Hippolyta lets up on her verbal exchange. The son of Zeus says he can learn to change, but the queen is unwilling to let him prove it. Instead, she traps him inside this cage. As he waits in captivity without putting his superhuman strength to good use, some of the Amazons approach Hercules and begin chatting. This one asks about a little 10-year-old back in Gargarentia. She emphatically denies being the mother of Franco before Lycia tells the ladies to make like a tree and leave. The second in command holds no love lost for the son of Zeus, boasting he'd be buried if she was in charge. The king of the gods then stops by and asks his son why he doesn't use his powers to break free already. Thank you, Zeus. Herc says it's because there's something different about Hippolyta, marveling at her inner strength and power. Zeus reminds him that Amazons are some of Hera's favorites, and messing with them would make the goddess unhappy. Since when has either one of us cared about Hera's happiness? Hercules is a savage. Meanwhile, the queen is extending her thanks to the goddess for their recent capture of the son of Zeus. However, the good times don't last, as Hera is not pleased with her stepson still being alive. Hippolyta says it's because she feels Hercules may be different from what she initially perceived all men are. The goddess is having none of this crap, demanding the queen of the Amazons to kill Herc and the rest of the men in Gargarencia. Hippolyta may not be completely on board with this, but you know Lycia is. Hercules finally uses his strength to escape the cage and returns to Gargarencia to warn the others. The Amazon ritual begins, accompanied by another excellent piece from Laduca. This is really a cool scene. Queen Hippolyta rallies her troops and off they go on Argos. Back in the town, Hercules tells the men to carry out the plan. Upon arrival, Hippolyta commands her sisters to complete the task at hand before the sound of the horn. One by one, the men offer each of the Amazons a chance to talk when they enter the homes. Little Franco is reunited with his mother, Megara, and Lycia finds the king of the gods. The second in command has no time for small talk, opting to get straight into the real action. Zeus doesn't need to be told twice. Hilarious moment. Outside, Hercules finds Hippolyta brushing down her Argo, and it is revealed the invasion was only for her sisters to use the men in order to create future Amazons. The queen says she's only following Hera's commands, and the son of Zeus points out the inconsistency of her being controlled after claiming to be so independent earlier. There is one command she hasn't followed through with: killing him. The son of Zeus gives her a free shot at his throat with a blade, but she doesn't take it. Hercules says the women are needed in Gargarencia and tells Hippolyta it takes strength and courage to express one's true feelings. The queen says she's not afraid of anything and proves it with a kiss. The next morning, each of the ladies happily awaken next to their men, and Lycia is still in heaven next to Zeus. Another funny moment. For some reason, Hippolyta is in quite a hurry to sound the horn. The men rejoice over their success, happy that the ladies will resume the work around town. Hercules tells them to know their role and shut their mouth for the sake of Gargarencia. As the Amazons happily discuss their times with the men, Hippolyta speaks once more with Hera and reconsiders their plan of attack. The goddess stresses that her stepson is lying scum like his father, who tricked her in order to destroy the Amazon nation. When Hera commands her to attack the village, Hippolyta has finally had enough of this crap. Unfortunately, Hera won't take no for an answer. The goddess takes full control of the queen's mind, urging the other Amazons to head back to Gargarencia for an all-out war. These shots of the women treading through the sand dunes and the riverbed on their Argos are incredible. Panic spreads all over the town as the Amazons smash everything in sight. Hippolyta, if you will, commands Lycia to take out Pithous. "No!" yells Megara, and Hercules steps in to prevent any more bloodshed. The son of Zeus assures her the women now have the men's respect, but quickly realizes Hera has possessed Hippolyta after she recalls Zeus lying to her in a similar fashion before. Herc disarms the queen of the gods, but refuses to kill her, still holding deep feelings for Hippolyta. He rides off to the woods on an Argo with his stepmother not far behind. Zeus once again drops by and recommends his son to get back on the Argo until Hera cools off. But we all know Hercules is having none of that crap.
Web swing!
Hippolyta unleashes a vicious unanswered attack against her stepson and splits his head open while Herc does all he can to verbally free Hippolyta from the spell. Pithous interferes, but only for a moment. Hippolyta takes great pleasure in killing Franco's father. Hercules finally starts fighting back and easily takes her down. You guessed it, he still refuses to kill her. He retreats to a dilapidated bridge above this waterfall. Hera says she won't allow both of them to live, and Hercules then offers her a free shot, remarking he couldn't live with the pain of a life without Hippolyta. The goddess takes full advantage of this knowledge by having the queen of the Amazons jump off the bridge. Hercules returns Hippolyta's body to Gargarencia, where the men and the Amazons carry her away. Franco is sadly left to live without his father, with Megara telling him there's no way he can be brought back. "Don't be so sure," replies Hercules. The son of Zeus returns to the land of the Amazons to reverse time with this candle. The king of the gods steps in and says it's best to move on since it's real complicated to meddle with time. Plus, doing so would anger Hera, and in that situation, he couldn't possibly go back home. "You never do anyway," smirks Hercules. Zeus can't help but smile back and blows the candle out. And just like that, a majority of the film's events are reversed in a cool backwards montage. Hercules is transported back to the dinner at Aeolus Manor. As you can imagine, Herc is through the roof seeing his friend alive again and happily takes big bites of Anya's stew, but Aeolus isn't as pleased with what he eats. This face is also priceless. Pithis still appears outside, but this time, Hercules advises him to return home and reason with the Amazons since the men in town know them well already. Pithis happily heads off, and we've got ourselves a wedding. As they witness the two lovebirds in the kitchen, Alcmene asks her son if he thinks there's a woman for him. "She's out there somewhere," he replies, and the film ends with a wonderful shot of Queen Hippolyta. There we have it, the first of 5 television films with Renaissance Pictures' incarnation of the son of Zeus. Looking back at this movie now, it's quite impressive how the fight scenes, the storytelling, and interactions between the characters are so indicative of what the series would become at the beginning of 1995. As it turns out, Aeolus was meant to stay dead, but a strong performance from Michael Hurst impressed Robert Tapert enough to keep him around for future adventures, hence the reversal of time during the final act. Thank goodness too, since the dynamic between Hercules and Aeolus would prove to be excellent each time both were together on screen. It's also cool to see the initial appearances of Lawless, Keen, and Taylor in this universe before Xena began. The New Zealand scenery makes its mark as an important character in its own right, with truly mesmerizing shots. Best of all, Sorbo as Hercules and Quinn as Zeus proved to be an entertaining duo in their first outing, with each of them performing the character traits each producer had envisioned real well. The ratings reflected this in spades, proving to be a big hit with men, women, and children. If nothing else, the fact that this helps start everything in what we refer to now as the Xenaverse makes it a highly recommended watch if you haven't seen it already. And yes, Hercules fans, I plan to cover the rest of the films on the channel individually soon. For now, thank you all for watching, and be sure to join me next time when we dive into the second film, Hercules and the Lost Kingdom.